She'll now be touring the world with an individual named Greg Laurie. Greg Laurie, who has been accused of being a PDF and child trafficking. And oh my goodness, here he is. Make Heaven Crowded Tour. Interesting name for the title of the tour. Here are the list of lawsuits currently against Pastor Greg Laurie and the Harvest Christian Fellowship alleging sexual abuse of children. So this is the first stop on the world tour that Erika Kirk is launching. Survivors of child abuse have filed lawsuits in U.S. federal courts against one of America's most prominent megachurches. Its nationally known leader, Greg Laurie, alleging systemic negligence, sex trafficking violations, and a 20-year cover-up of rampant sexual abuse in the defense operation of children's homes in Romania. In total, 23 former residents of the homes will be bringing complaints forward. For those of you who have not heard the news about the Romanian orphanage that Erika Kirk was running as a 17-year-old, I don't know any 17-year-olds running orphanages, let alone in Eastern Europe. That was kind of shocking to me on its face. But yes, Erika Kirk, at 17 years of age, Erika Franzfei at the time, was running an orphanage in Romania outside of a NATO military base. Now, this story gets a whole lot more suspect when you learn, of course, that her parents, Laurie Franzfei, her mom in particular, has had DOD contracts, Department of Homeland Security contracts, Department of Energy contracts for years, as she runs a military defense technology company called E3 Tech, and they supply all of these various agencies with electromagnetic pulse defense technology. Again, I thought that this was a loony conspiracy theory until, of course, we saw the videos in which Erika Kirk was actually advertising these products alongside James Woolsey, former CIA director, and other directors and officials from the CIA and other three-letter agencies, okay? So that was, we've already gone through that. We don't need to go through that again. But as for the Romanian orphanage, do I believe that Erika Kirk was the one running it? Not really. I believe that her parents were the ones who were running it. I think they slapped her name on it so it would look good for college transcripts. And even there are accounts from people who worked at the orphanage in Romania who said that Erika Kirk did nothing insofar as like day-to-day work for the orphanage. She would just come there for some photo ops occasionally. But we have to ask the question of what was this Romanian orphanage doing? If it was Erika's parents who were running this, why was this located directly outside of a NATO military base? Now, if you don't know anything about these military bases in these NATO military bases, in not just Eastern Europe, former Soviet states, but also across the world, like in South Korea, in Japan as well, there is an extensive and well-documented history of sexual abuse taking place, trafficking taking place at these sorts of military bases, and no one in the host countries, or the vassal countries is a better way of putting it, can do anything about it. Because a lot of these countries, Romania included, actually have laws in their own government which say that U.S. military personnel stationed at the Romanian NATO base cannot be prosecuted for any crimes. They cannot be legally challenged in any way. It's basically a sovereign state within a vassal state, okay? That's how you should understand these NATO military bases. Now, there was a translator at this Romanian orphanage in Romania that Erika Kirk was running, I guess, or her parents were running, who came out and exposed the fact that there were a lot of minors, in particular, little girls who were being brought into these orphanages and NATO bases and going missing, all right? And when this translator tried to expose all of this and what was going on and calling into question the legality of the nature of these individuals who were involved with the alleged operation, a NATO official was recorded in a video call with the translators threatening to run the woman over with his car. A U.S. military official threatened to run over the translator of the orphanage with his car for trying to expose a trafficking ring between the NATO military base and the orphanage. Locals in the area all know what's going on. There have been several reports of girls gone missing, girls being unalived just outside of the military base under very suspicious circumstances. No one, of course, is prosecuted or held accountable. And so this has all been going on. And the main individual who's alleged to have been behind this is a man that apparently doesn't exist. If you ask ChatGPT or if you look it up in the Western press, they say that this Colonel Otto Buscher III does not exist. Fake person, right? But if you read Romanian media outlets, he's a very real person. He's alleged to be the kingpin of this trafficking organization. And actually, if you watch the one and only promo video of Erika Kirk at the orphanage in Romania, at the end of the video, she thanks one person in particular, names only but one person, and that person is Colonel Otto Buscher III, the U.S. military official who's alleged to be involved with this trafficking ring. So take it away, James Lee. Let's get a brief little primer on this before we dive into Greg Laurie and his connections to Romanian orphanages and the over a dozen now lawsuits that have been filed against him.
Dark. Okay, despite the mainstream fact checkers telling us there's nothing to see here regarding some pretty heinous allegations, I'm here to tell you that the evidence is actually all there.
Believe that we all have angels in our lives. And these are my little angels from Antonio Placement Center in Constanța, Romania.
This is from a Romanian newspaper. This headline is translated, but it reads, a former translator from the American base in the city of Romania that I'm not going to pronounce, accuses, and she says that it's a real brothel operated here where minors were brought in. Quote, Anna Maria Nasiu was until recent years a translator at the American base. Once again, city, can't pronounce it, Romanian name. Everything seemed to be normal until Anna Maria discovered that in this military unit belonging to NATO forces, there was a real brothel where underage girls came to satisfy the desires of some soldiers, especially the commander of the Black Sea Area Support Team base, Otto Buscher. Okay, Otto Buscher, remember that name. This next part is where the dots will connect. Okay, I'm gonna show you this video right here that was posted by Erika Kirk, then Erika Fransvi, on Vimeo. Basically, it's a commercial for Romanian Angels, and it was posted in 2013. It's basically a fluff video, but at the end, the person she thanks is none other than Colonel Otto Buscher. Yeah, here is a copy of the criminal complaint. It is in Romanian, but you can see the name Otto Buscher, and the years 2011 to 2013 is when these alleged crimes took place. So the person that Erika Kirk was working with in Romania to quote unquote help orphan children was accused of, yeah, not good. And you might be like, why have I never heard of this? Well, there's something called the U.S.-Romania Defense Cooperation Agreement that was signed back in 2005, wherein crimes committed by U.S. military personnel on Romanian bases used by U.S. forces fall under U.S. jurisdiction, especially if they occur while on duty or within the installations. So essentially, everything was just swept under the rug. This guy, Otto Buscher, just retires, and according to my research, here's his LinkedIn, he's like having a nice, quiet retirement in New Hampshire. Erika Kirk's Romanian Angels mysteriously just shuts down shortly thereafter. She then keeps a pretty low profile until she is set up on a TPUSA interview with Charlie Kirk, and they fall in love, they get married, and you won't believe this, but their wedding was actually funded by TPUSA, so very interesting. And fast forward, as we all know now, Charlie Kirk dies a gruesome death, and she takes over as CEO of Turning Point with the new organization now much more powerful than it ever was.
Oh, but there's more to this story because it doesn't end there. Erika Kirk now has launched a new, I guess, addition to this Grieving Widow Tour, right? Grieving Widow Tour in the star-studded Disney Channel award show, sparkly gold dress, where she'll now be touring the world with an individual named Greg Laurie. Greg Laurie, who has been accused of being a PDF and child trafficking. And oh my goodness, here he is, Make Heaven Crowded Tour. Interesting name for the title of the tour, we'll add, Make Heaven Crowded. So here's Erika Kirk, here is Greg Laurie. All right, now, if you've heard Candace Owens talk a lot about this TPUSA faith and the suspect individuals involved there, Greg Laurie has to be at the top of the list of the suspect personalities, all right? Pastor Greg Laurie and Harvest Christian Fellowship, which is his church, are currently facing several high-profile federal lawsuits alleging negligence, child trafficking violations, and a 2-decade-long cover-up regarding all of this, all right? Here are the list of lawsuits currently against Pastor Greg Laurie and the Harvest Christian Fellowship alleging sexual abuse of children. So this is the first stop on the world tour that Erika Kirk is launching, Make Heaven Crowded Tour. She chose to make this at the Harvest Christian Fellowship Church in Riverside, California. That's the first stop on the tour with Greg Laurie.
Serious question. How many coincidences before we're allowed to say, if it walks like a dog and barks like a dog, it's probably a dog?
Yeah, good question. And how many times do we have to see that Erika Kirk and TPUSA are closely linked and affiliated with these child traffickers before we begin to do some serious digging? Here is Greg Laurie in his own words. If you've never heard him, this is the kind of stuff you get at the Harvest Christian Fellowship if you've never listened to any of their broadcasts.
And I think it's so important because I'm not Jewish. I'm a Gentile. And when I did my 23andMe test, I was hoping, is there some Jewish blood in me somewhere? And I found out I'm hopelessly Gentile. I am white trash.
Stop.
Well, no, I'm Scottish and Irish. And I said, my love for the Jewish people came after I came into a relationship with Jesus Christ. I was a confused kid going the wrong way in life. I heard about Jesus. I began to read the Bible.
Hopelessly Gentile and white trash. Very interesting words from Greg Laurie there. There's also been another group of plaintiffs, this time including 7 women, who have now filed lawsuits against California megachurch Harvest Christian Fellowship and its lead pastor, Greg Laurie, for sexual abuse they claim to have suffered at the hands of Paul Havsgaard, which we'll talk about him in a moment. But this is where it gets really weird. Lawsuits have now been filed, more lawsuits against Greg Laurie and Harvest Christian Fellowship for abuse in Romanian orphanage. Can you believe that? So we have Erika Kirk with the orphanage that she supposedly ran at the age of 17 outside of a NATO military base that was alleged to have been involved in this whole trafficking operation with Otto Buscher III, who she personally thanked in the one promo video she made for the orphanage at the end of the video. Of course, no one in Romania can do anything about it. No one in Romania can do anything about the girls that were killed because there is Romanian law that was imposed upon them by the U.S. and NATO, which said you cannot prosecute any U.S. military personnel at this base. And now we have this. So the first person on the tour is a man who has over a dozen lawsuits against him now. And one of these lawsuits, I believe there's 16 victims that have come forward for this lawsuit. And the attorneys predict that another 23 victims are going to come forward and join the case. That's insane. Absolutely insane. The number of lawsuits filed against Harvest Christian Fellowship's founder Greg Laurie related to the abuse of young men at a children's home in Romania now stands at 12. All right. So here you go. Survivors of child abuse have filed lawsuits in U.S. federal courts against one of America's most prominent megachurches. Its nationally known leader, Greg Laurie, alleging systemic negligence, sex trafficking violations, and a 20-year cover-up of rampant sexual abuse in the defense operation of children's homes in Romania. In total, 23 former residents of the homes will be bringing complaints forward. All right. Absolutely insane. The federal complaints detail how Paul Havsgaard, a longtime Harvest pastor and associate of Laurie, was sent by Laurie to Romania in 98 to run a Harvest-sponsored homes for vulnerable children. After attracting street kids with a McDonald's meal and promises of a safe shelter, he carried out sexual and physical abuse on an industrial scale. According to the complaints, church leaders in California failed basic tasks of supervision, yet profited from the money they raised through charitable appeals in the false impression that they were doing good works. The complaints allege that Havsgaard may be one of the most prolific child sexual predators alive in the United States today, responsible for thousands of individual acts of abuse. I mean, this is actually Epstein tier operation. No wonder Nick Fuentes is defending Erika Kirk from Candace Owens, right? Seems to be a trend. He likes to defend these sorts of people, these sorts of operations. The complaints relate that Havsgaard raped his own sisters when he was a teenager and sexually assaulted his foster daughter while a Harvest pastor. Despite repeated warnings and evidence of abuse, Laurie and his former missions pastor, Richard Schutt, kept Havsgaard in place in Romania with minimal oversight. Harvest deposited some $17,000 each month in Havsgaard's personal bank account and did not require detailed accounts as he siphoned off funds to pay for gifts for his sexual favorites. The complaints allege that finally in 2004, the American ministers were sufficiently concerned by what they were hearing about Havsgaard that they intervened with Harvest and caused Schutt, Laurie's lieutenant in charge of foreign missions, to send in an inspection team. When Schutt joined the inspectors in Bucharest, they told him that Havsgaard was a pedo and that Havsgaard needs to be on that plane with you when you leave tomorrow. He doesn't need to be another day in Romania. He's an embarrassment to every single missionary and Christian worker. All right? But they did nothing. They did nothing to protect the children. So this is who Erika Kirk is associating with on her world tour. All right?
A bunch of South Korean women have filed a unprecedented lawsuit against the United States military for the same thing, for running a brothel where they are stationed in South Korea. And so what they are telling me adds up. It's tracking. What they say is, okay, think of a military base. Anywhere in the world, you have a bunch of men who do not have regular access to women. So in those circumstances, and you also have a bunch of people that are, at the top of that military who, I don't know, maybe could be a bit like, some satanic tastes. Anyway, they tell me is that they will typically send someone out who will be a woman. So think of like a Ghislaine Maxwell to go out and to find them, their interests, their tastes, young women that can be manipulated. That person will often describe themselves as a casting director to go out there and to tell the women to come onto the base. Once they're on the base, anything can happen to them. Like I said, they are afforded no protections from their government, and our government is not going to prosecute the men that do anything on that base. That's how the typical deal works. And yeah, I don't know. Just like from a PR perspective, I'm not so concerned about why it is that Tucker Carlson, who just believes that we shouldn't get involved in wars, just like Charlie believed, is speaking at Turning Point USA. I am kind of concerned why all of these pastors who seem to be rehabilitating pedophiles are welcomed. It just feels like a thing easily to say, we're just not right now, Greg Laurie, until we get to the bottom of whether or not your church was more involved than these people are alleging. Because it's interesting that he's not saying it didn't happen. He's saying, well, it's not the whole church, just this pastor. Anyways, we'll continue to follow that lawsuit.
So the title of this video is Erika Kirk is guilty. Now, I don't want to get sued by the extremely litigious attorneys at TPUSA and officials at TPUSA. So I will say, what is Erika Kirk guilty of? She is guilty of extreme levels of hypocrisy, right? TPUSA as a whole is guilty of extreme levels of hypocrisy for, as you just heard from Candace Owens, the routine threats and pressure that was on Charlie Kirk to not associate, not host Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens for having so-called bad views. But then the world tour, the first guest is at the Harvest Christian Fellowship with Pastor Greg Laurie, who is clearly implicated in, at the very least, a cover-up of child trafficking and sexual abuse, also Romanian orphanages effectively, and alleged widespread abuse from the people who are involved and saw it firsthand. And yes, she is guilty of associating with that person. She is guilty of, upholding so-called Christian values, preaching to all of us about how we are bad people because we are conspiracy theorists and don't believe Kash Patel's story, but then has the audacity to go and run around and prop up, calls himself a pastor, but he's a demon. He is one of the many demons that is facilitating the trafficking of children all across the world, seemingly. In particular, here in the case of Romania, it seems extremely extensive, and they covered it up. So that is what she is guilty of. And in my eyes, that is the worst crime that you could be guilty of, right? That is many cultures around the world for, the entirety of human history have treated crimes like this with the most severe of punishments, and with good reason, because in taking away the God-given human potential that every single person is born with, taking that away from a child, stripping it away from a child, making money while you do it, and facilitating allegedly the trafficking. I'm not saying Erika did this. I'm saying that Harvest Church or whatever did this, according to the lawsuits. The trafficking of children, many children, and you have total protection. No one is going to do anything about it. Yeah, that is disgusting. That is sickening. And I can't wrap my mind around how this is somehow a good move for TPUSA. Keep in mind, one last point here, TPUSA is sending cease and desist letters to Wolves in Finance, a YouTuber with 300, 400,000 followers, because he's looking into the financials of TPUSA. They didn't even say he was wrong. They just want him to shut up and retract his statements. They sent a cease and desist letter to Candace Owens because she said there are bad people at TPUSA, and she's under an NDA for the next 10 months or so, right? So what is more damning and damaging to TPUSA's reputation, to their bottom line, their financials? Is it having Candace Owens say that there are bad people at TPUSA, or is it doing a world tour and the first stop is at a criminal entity, Harvest Christian Fellowship, and doing a co-hosting Greg Laurie, who is clearly implicated in what looks like to be extensive abuse of children all across the world? I think that's more damaging and damning to the reputation and the financials of TPUSA, but that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. Jeffrey Epstein sure made a lot of money doing that. So maybe the idea is that TPUSA is trying to make as much money as possible, get as many donations as possible, and they simply don't care who gets hurt. They don't care, what the cost is and how many people, how many children might be suffering as a result. I'll have to continue following this, but definitely not a good look as we dive into this. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.